our next panel discussion. It is the billion-dollar arena, unlocking value in competitive gaming. So please join me as I give a very warm welcome to our moderator and panelists. Our moderator, Basma Nourani, Chairman of PBN Investments. Warm welcome, guys. You've all had your beverages by now. And joining Basma will be, joining us again, Denise Zales. Please welcome back on stage the founder and chief executive officer of Known. We have Brittany Kaiser, the chief executive officer of AlphaTON Capital, and Omar Rahim, founder of Arena 2. Welcome back on stage, Omar. The stage is yours, guys. Enjoy, everyone.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Global Game Show. I'm very happy today to be here to lead this session with the amazing three leaders in this sector. First of all, I'm Basma Nourani. I'm a founder and chairman of PBN Investment. We invest in Web3, AI, and gaming, and the new technology here in Abu Dhabi. And we have many projects in Middle East, Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. We are here today to talk about AI, how are changing the gaming and game product. Let's start with Miss Denise. Introduce yourself, please.
Denise Zales. I founded Known. We work on different projects, both in the gaming space as well as in the entertainment space. And I also work with the London Fund.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Kaiser. I'm the CEO of AlphaTON Capital Corp, NASDAQ, ATON. We are a Telegram-focused public company where we invest in and across the Telegram ecosystem in gaming, DeFi, AI, and all types of Web3 products that function within the Telegram mini app or wider Telegram ecosystem.
Yeah, hi, everyone again. It's Omar Rahim. I'm the founder and CEO of Arena 2. It's a company that is building the gamification of live sports and entertainment.
Thank you. When we talk for any business here, we need to see the market and opportunity. We have Miss Denise. You have a background in global growth and strategy in leadership. Can you tell me where is the biggest business chance today in gaming and creator?
Your question had to do biggest opportunity, right?
Yes.
So I think right now there's different regions, and I'd love to hear the opinion of Brittany as well, because we've talked about this. It's been a while, though. I think the biggest opportunities have to do with untapped markets. At least that's the one I'm going to discuss. There is very young populations in different demographics that are tapping into, through the different opportunities of connectivity, are tapping into gaming specifically and are looking how to expand on that. And then you also have the innovation, of course, of AI and blockchain that take different approaches to gaming. And I think when you consider it from that angle, I've been in blockchain since 2018. I know a lot of the original founders. I've seen, in discussions with other investors, we see that as an untapped opportunity to teach them the new wave of technology that's coming in and the new approach to how gaming is being perceived, because it doesn't have necessarily a traditional Web 2 approach, traditional gaming approach, but it's reinventing itself. And so we're looking for those types of opportunities and what is capturing the audiences that are considering the new approaches.
Yeah, for us, we really believe that some of the most exciting opportunities are, again, tapping into where most of the users are, which is why we are focused on Telegram. Right now, if you launch a new Telegram game, you can get millions of users on day one and tens of millions of users within a couple weeks if you do your marketing correctly. That is an insane opportunity, and no one has to download anything new. Over 1 billion people around the world have Telegram already. They use it on average 15 times a day. So launching within the mini app ecosystem in Telegram is very exciting, and it's a tried and true business model. We announced last month that we are buying the majority stake in an Animoca brand subsidiary called Gamey. They're the largest gaming platform in Telegram. They were actually Telegram's launch partner for their mini app ecosystem 10 years ago. And by now, 10 years later, they're a gaming studio. They have over 100 active games and some of the most viral games in all of Telegram. They just launched one a couple of weeks ago in partnership with Azuki, which is a really exciting Web3 game. They have both Web2 and Web3, but I think besides just finding the players where they already are without trying to get them to download something new, the biggest opportunity is obviously gaming in Web3, where we can motivate users to play to earn. So they are earning digital assets while they are playing, and they can actually take those assets and trade them out. They don't have to go manually organize a brand partnership or sponsorship for what they do. They get paid live. And now with Telegram's latest update, people can pay you in stars, which is Telegram's in-app currency on TON, in order to watch you play. You can stream. So there's a whole kind of like opportunity with both being a top player and also using games that are play to earn.
Great. I want to ask you, Ms. Brittany, about blockchain. How gaming the most today? How can, Ms. Brittany? It's for you.
So how does really Web3 gaming work today?
I know.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different structures. I think probably the biggest buzzword that everyone's heard is the play to earn economy, which means that unlike traditional games where you are earning assets that you can't actually trade outside of the game and can't cash in for different types of usable money or cryptocurrencies, you can only use them within the game. In Web3, you can take those assets and you can trade them out on DeFi platforms or other exchanges and actually get your TON or your Bitcoin or your Ethereum or your local fiat currency for what you've been able to earn and create in the game. So that is absolutely huge, and in the Telegram ecosystem especially has been incredibly viral over the past couple years, and people are playing games on repeat in order to earn as many digital assets as possible so that they can then go spend that money somewhere else.
Thank you. Mr. Omar, what gaming business will grow the faster?
Yeah, I think for us, obviously, we have a slight bias between sports and entertainment, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, we would say that. So we organize real-world sporting events, starting with a global football tournament. So we're blending sort of real-world events with, obviously, the gamification element. So, I'm a big believer in crossing this sort of Web 2 to Web 3 world, where we're pulling in more people into the Web 3 ecosystem without scaring them. So I don't know, many of the people in this room might be used to using DeFi apps, but if you then tell your non-crypto friends about it, it can look quite scary. So I think having this, pulling in users from the Web 2 world and then moving them across and using blockchain without them realizing it's a blockchain, without them caring about it, I think that's really the opportunity for, we often hear this phrase, onboarding the next billion. I think that's where the next billion will come from.
Yeah,
and I would like to piggyback off of that. So I think it's very common in the Web 2 space, right, to earn rewards. We're already familiar with that. We're already familiar with earning points and all of that. So I think when we're doing the transition from Web 2 to Web 3, it's easy, I think, in different economies where, we know that the cost of living is very low and that actually playing something that can be monetized and then used and spent, for real things like gas or buying something they really want at the store or whatever it is, if you translate earning points to earning tokens, especially what Brittany brought up, in a frictionless environment where you're already used to using Telegram and you can easily play these games now on Telegram without having to download into an actual device besides just your phone, which you already have, it makes perfect sense, right? So I think that's the easy transfer and frictionless movement from a Web 2 to a Web 3 that makes sense from a monetization perspective.
Yes, I agree. When we talk to our ownership and Web3 and technology, Ms. Denise, how should brand think about ownership today?
I'm sorry, can you...
How should brand think about ownership today?
About ownership today. I think that there's a lot of ways that ownership can be translated. I'd love to hear the other panelists discuss this a little bit more with me. But I think now, at least in the conversations I'm in, okay, so I'll put that disclaimer. The conversations I'm in, ownership isn't just traditional ownership anymore. Before it was, just the main founder or the main people who put something together. Now we have, fractions of ownership, or we have ownership of IP, or we have ownership of a skin, or we have ownership of a token, or we have ownership of a certain character, in the game. So ownership now has been amplified, and there's just so many different ways that economies can be built off of this, and that the user experience can be expanded on.
Yeah, I'm very obsessed with the concept of ownership that traditionally has just been with a company or brand, and being able to put ownership in the hands of fans, players, users. And I think that is what drives so much excitement and engagement. That's where the entire NFT craze came from. That's where a lot of the play to earn, where you're like mining collectibles in games. That's where, Telegram has a whole viral community that's very based on gifts and stickers, which are actually on-chain assets, which you can sell on-chain and, again, take your money out of the ecosystem if you would like to. And so it's just a huge opportunity for fractionalized ownership, for people to have ownership in a brand that they normally wouldn't be able to get access to, for people to have ownership, as you said, of a character, where you can then own the IP rights and license that out to other people. That was a very big deal in the NFT craze, where you own that particular character and the original of it, and then every derivation of that can be licensed out so that you can make money on IP by investing in buying that character. So that brings a lot of exciting monetization opportunities that didn't exist before, and creation of these ownership level digital assets, where instead of having a paper contract with a brand, you now have a smart contract, which is just the way that you encrypt the data in the token, and that says that you own it, and then you have the ability to license it back out automatically via smart contract, where it self-executes and you automatically get paid when people use that. Is very exciting, and it also allows the hyper growth of IP usage in the digital space, which I think, if you're going to spend a lot of money on creating characters in games, is a really great way to grow that audience and fan base.
I think just to build on that, really, the question of ownership is so important, because over the last 5 years, I'm about to enter my 11th year in this industry, and for years we used this term ownership, but we didn't really mean ownership. We used it as, let's make it look like ownership and let's take as much money in as we can. Now we're in the era of, okay, well, people are a little bit smarter now with the smart money coming in and say, no, don't just tell us that something's worth something. There has to be some real ownership at stake here. And the Web3 audience, and increasingly the Web2 audience, now have that expectation that they really want to own something, not just the idea of owning it. And how it would apply to our business. So we're working with professional football clubs. We created our own clubs, but we have one pro team entering. And when we explain to them that there is your franchise, your club that's competing in our real world tournament is not a legal entity. It's just a virtual entity. They were one of the few pro clubs that understood that concept of ownership. They're like, okay, fine, we own this club, but there's no legal entity behind it. The other professional clubs ran a mile and said, what do you mean? We need a legal paperwork. We need it to be a registered company. So I think now the trend is changing, where users in Web3 do want that kind of real ownership and real utility for the assets that they're purchasing and interacting with.
Thank you. When we connect this with Web3, how can Web3 help player and creator, Ms. Brittany?
So Web3 can help players by allowing it to really be your profession if you want to be a professional gamer, and to not be a waste of your time. And for me, I think that is so incredibly important, especially as a mom with a child that loves gaming. I can see that Web3 allows people who want to spend their time gaming to actually get value for their time. So whether you consider it a job or not, or it's just a pastime, when you are a game player, you walk away with value, not just lost time. And that is a huge opportunity, not just for the players, but also for the brands and companies that are creating the games, because there's a true value exchange, which means you are developing a trustworthy relationship that has longevity with your players. And for me, that's incredibly exciting and something that every gaming brand should be fostering. And it's the reason why a lot of gaming brands that I'm seeing are investing in the Web3 space, because it brings this longevity of a relationship and a more sticky usage with players because they can walk away with something after they've played.
Right, and there are many economies, right? Let's go back to that. I mean, money talks. You know, you guys have heard the golden rule, right? Gold rules. And so if you create that with in mind, right, that whatever economy you're building or investing in, at the end of the day, yes, you want it to be sticky. You want people to want it, but you don't want people to want it from an addiction perspective, right? You want people to want it from an engagement, or this is an economy I'm plugging into, and so I'm providing utility, but also from an investor perspective, it absolutely makes sense. The more you have, and the more you can, forgive the expression, beef up the revenue model and have numerous revenue streams coming in and out, the more relevant it is and the more value you're creating in that economy.
Thank you. It's amazing. Let's move to the technology side with Mr. Omar. Which technology will change gaming the most?
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, I think obviously we're here in a Web3 format, and we're just starting to scratch the surface for me in terms of the practical usage of blockchain in gaming. And I think the other panelists made a really good point that the expectation of earning rewards has been with us for a while, but this idea that you can suddenly monetize your time or monetize your fandom, that's what really blockchain allows us to do. So there's a certain tendency to introduce blockchain for the token, whereas the real value add here is to allow users to be able to discover, okay, I earned this reward by a certain action. So traditionally, this would have been a badge for status or digital goods. Now I found out, wow, these digital badges have a third-party marketplace, or I can sell it within the app. So I've turned my time or my fandom from supporting my team, from posting on social media, earning that badge, great. That also has a value as social capital. But now let's take an example of somebody that earns a badge in a game, and they get a certain fan tier status. It's great, right? I get to show off in my community that I'm a platinum member of this team. But if I can now sell that, because it's based on blockchain, and I can sell that for $200, or I can exchange it for a ticket to a VIP event in the real world, all of a sudden it goes back to the points that you made. You're monetizing your time now. So I've spent time enjoying playing the game, but blockchain allows that kind of seamless transition of earning rewards and turning that into cash, which is something practical that I can use in my everyday life.
Absolutely. Yes. So I'd like to go off a little bit more on what you just said, because I love it. I think it's great for the player to be able to engage and know that more things are coming down the funnel. I think it's even it's equally amazing for the actual brand, right? To know exactly who their fans are, what they want, where are they located. You know, now with blockchain and other technologies, you can trace your audience. So you can say, most of my audience, most of my wallets are located in this region of the world, or most of my audience also loves to collect or to engage with this other game, right? Or this other token or this other product. So now the brands themselves can tailor their approach and who they want to do strategic partnerships with. Who do they want to do campaigns with? You know, who, and so from a, I think an information, we're in the age of information, you know, and being able to know exactly how to engage your audience and where your money, your CAC, your cost of acquiring your customer is actually practical, and you know exactly where your dollars should go, right? I think that from an investor perspective, because I know I also sit on the fund side, you know, the money side, it's absolutely crucial for us to know that every dollar is being allocated correctly.
Oh yeah, I've worked with a gaming company recently where they started tracking and tracing all of the on-chain data from their Web3 users, and there was such incredible insight where you could see what type of digital assets people were spending more time trying to mine or win, or what type of award or tiers people were really working towards in a ground truth, real data way. And being able to read that on-chain and use AI analysis allowed them to develop such better new games and such better new products around their brand. And in the end, that was much higher ROI for them, but also a much better user experience for all of the users, because now the next round of games and prizes and NFTs or gifts or stickers or whatever they're earning spoke more to them and was more interesting for them because of the data loop.
That's amazing. When we talk about funds and risk, what the fun experience will change esports next, Ms. Denise?
I'm sorry.
What fun experience will change esports next?
What fun experience will change? Okay. You're talking from an engagement perspective, right, with gaming. So some of the other panels I think that have happened, and a lot of us here have heard, gaming can be extended past whatever traditional ways we used to engage with, right? Before it used to be we know that when gaming first started, it was, an old school TV that was the size of a box and, and clunky little, actually I love that. Okay. I'm all into retro. So I'm not dogging that by any means, right? Woo. Yeah. Anyway, but I think like now we're expanding it into other experiences. We want the human aspect too, right? So a lot of the gaming companies I have talked to, they're looking at how do we expand past the screen. And in a different panel, they were talking about, glasses now, where we're trying to move into wearables, right? And how do we expand into the real world? How do we create a dual experience or a mirroring experience? And I think what Brittany brought up was, we're also creating very tailored experiences. So if you're part of this gaming community, if you're doing this on Telegram, if you're doing it on different modems, it doesn't matter. You can still extend your experience and now be invited to exclusive events or exclusive participations that are tailored to how you're wired and what you want. And I think that is part of that.
I had a very immersive experience like that, literally just 2 hours ago. Will, can you get my plush Pepe out of my backpack? It's with Keith. Anyway, so I'm very into Telegram gifts and stickers and a lot of the in-game assets in Telegram. And ahead of my last talk, at the last event, the head of growth for the TON Foundation brought me a real-life plush version of my plush Pepe that I own as an NFT, which is an on-chain sticker in Telegram. And he brought it to me right before I was going on stage, so he sat with me on stage the entire time. And for that was so meaningful for me because, one, plush Pepes are big investments. You have to earn a lot of TON and in-game assets in order to be able to get one of these. And so for me, having this digitally, where I've even been showing it to my son and to my family and being like, hey, I own this really cool, moving character that I love. And we've even made Play-Doh versions of it and started to make little clay versions of it. And then I was told that the TON Foundation was having one of these made for me in Korea and would deliver it to me in person. And it happened right before I got on stage. I mean, that is a cool gaming experience that is very exciting. And you get that in real life feeling. And now the little character that I've been obsessed with that I've owned for the past couple of months, I now actually get to hold it and take it around with me. I mean, that is legendary. It's so cool. And I don't know that every Web3 foundation does things like that, but the TON Foundation does. And I love it very much. I am a very sticky user, obviously, as a CEO of a TON-focused company. But really, I think more brands can learn from things like that.
Thank you. Ms. Brittany, again, what risk should the investor know about today? Ms. Brittany.
I think what investors should know is that the Web3 gaming space might still seem niche today, but it isn't. I mean, we've been working on this type of tech for over a decade, and the fact that it's now becoming popular has it's got a couple decades of work behind it in terms of distributed ledger and where that came from. But really, it is about to go hugely mainstream, especially since we have the proliferation of it within Telegram, which is already the world's largest crypto platform. It has 1 billion monthly active users and 2.5 million more users joining every single day. Most other platforms are losing users. And a lot of them are coming in order to play new Web3 games and earning all of these assets and on-chain gifts and stickers. And they're staking them in DeFi and they're trading them and they're making money off of them. This is about to be huge in every other top gaming platform. And if any gaming company or brand is not yet activating in Web3, they are losing money every day. And they're going to miss out on this trend because owning your assets and owning value for your time that you put into contributing data to brands that are making money off of your back is not the way that things are going to continue to work. You need to be able to earn as you participate so that you get value back for the time that you input as a player, as a user. And that is a global trend that's not just gaming, that's for our entire interactions with social media platforms and other apps that we use on all of our devices. But gaming is the most used application of crypto. It's the most used application of technology. More people game than they do anything else. So gaming is always going to lead the way, and Web3 gaming turning into a huge thing is something that investors cannot ignore.
Thank you. Mr. Omar, how can Tournament make money without sponsor?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. And I think it's very poignant for us. So we're sort of at this intersection of sports and Web3. And all of our competitors are essentially sports businesses. And the idea is that we produce content, hopefully people watch, we produce social media impressions, and therefore we'll get sponsors. I think it's a very dangerous place to be when your business model is 80 to 90% sponsorship income, which is why we're all here, right? So all of us are here because we understand this new revenue generation, obviously the blockchain as a revenue item. And I think people forget sometimes when they're developing games and concepts that you have to have a way to make money. It's not enough. You know, those games you hear about, they haven't got any revenue and they've got millions of users. Yes, maybe 1 out of 100 games will succeed like that, but you have to have at least a pathway to be able to make money. For the sustainability of the project, this is not to say, wow, because we as a corporate entity want to make more and more profits. This is a case of, you know, to be sustainable and to add more features and to get wider distribution, you need to have that revenue stream. So in particular, I think there's 2 ways relevant here. Number one is you need to give people real ownership. We've talked about ownership. Whether you call it memberships or ownership, you need to have that element so players feel empowered that I own a bit of this little empire that I'm building. And the second thing you have to have, I believe, is you have to have a way of interacting and generating that sort of micro revenue. Increasingly, and this has been tried over the last 10 years, mainly not successfully. There's been a few examples that have been quite successful where you're starting to reward people with very small, low dollar amounts, but you've got millions of users. And, you know, Telegram being a big driver for this type of behavior. So I think beyond sponsorships, just having a sponsor of your game is not really a great strategy. You have to have these kind of dual elements of ownership and this kind of micro rewards as well.
Yes, I agree. Amazing. Let's start to challenge with Miss Denise. What problem in gaming should startups solve now?
You mean from a challenging perspective within gaming? So I think I'm going to echo what was just said. I think when a game doesn't think about the revenue model and only thinks about, you know, I've seen so many amazing games as an investor and the deal flow I see and in the communities I'm in, and I'm sure Brittany can echo this too.
Yeah, you have big background.
Yes, yes. They build something beautiful, right, or sticky, and they fail to think about the revenue model. They do not even think about how do I, or they think about a revenue model from a perspective that doesn't make sense. They're like, we will build it up to this amount. We will raise forever, you know, millions and millions of dollars. We will do it at this caliber. And they fail to think, how do we monetize, you know, as we're building? How do we build the steps? How do we make this a rich environment where there's microtransactions coming from many ways? And I think the failure there, and this is, of course, my opinion, so there's tons of disclaimers in everything I'm saying right now, if you disagree. I feel that the failure there is that they're thinking about the big picture, the destination, not the journey, and not engaging their audience in that journey. And the aspect of ownership is you have to engage them in the building process, your audience. It's absolutely crucial.
Yes, I agree. Now let's look at this risk behind this. Will fans know a game in the future, Miss Brittany?
So what about gaming in the future?
Will fans own game in the future?
Oh, well, what funds own games in the future? I think right now, any fund that is invested in digital assets will definitely be involved in gaming in some way, shape, or form. Again, I will repeat this. The number one use case of digital assets is gaming. It has the most users, it drives the biggest audience, the most engagement. So any layer one blockchain that isn't fostering its gaming community is leaving money on the table and leaving users on the table. A lot of the biggest L1s became that big because they had viral games. And they've been able to optimize their functionality of their underlying technology in order to meet the demand of games. So I think a lot of funds that are invested in different types of new technologies, not just blockchain, but also decentralized AI, as an example, on-chain AI processing that is going to drive more intelligent NPCs in our games and characters that really have a mind of their own and interact with each other in new ways. That is going to be on the in everybody's portfolio that is investing in these technologies, because in order to really vertically integrate your portfolio stack, you want to not just be invested in the underlying technology, but what drives the usage of that technology. And gaming is always going to be number one.
And I think to just add a little bit more to that, a different panel that happened just a little bit ago with Yat from Animoca Brands. He brought up the use case of gold, right? We have gold and jewelry, and we have gold that we trade as a commodity, right? And so I think very similar. I thought that was a brilliant example, and I'd like to bring it to this conversation too, is that you have layer ones as something that you can trade, and there's value in that. But you also have gaming, I think, is the jewelry of a lot of these layer ones. It adds so much more utility to it.
I'll go another layer deeper on that. The second most viral game on Telegram right now is a game where you play to earn tokenized gold. Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you, amazing.
She wants you to ask her about it later.
Mr. Omar, let's talk about money and revenue. What is the biggest challenge of gaming in the new markets?
I think one of the biggest challenges is distribution, and it's something that people often ignore. And I think to your earlier point there, a lot of people think, okay, let's create a great game. And I see this all the time. People create something really cool. I play it and I think, wow, this is cool. But they haven't thought about distribution. How are they going to get people to know about the game? And it's a theme that over the last 10 years that's come up time and time again. It doesn't matter if the product's great. You might get lucky and people might discover your game. But unless you have a distribution channel, I think it really kind of holds you back. So the biggest challenge for me, really, for game developers, is making sure that you have a thought-out distribution strategy, which is numerous. It's not just one channel. Now, whether that's for you, it could be content creators. So you could partner with content creators who effectively do your marketing and PR. It could obviously be platforms such as Telegram, etc., who already have a captive audience. But the point is that I think you need to have that figured out right from the start. It may change along the way, but at least you should have an idea of how you're going to distribute your product.
Thank you, amazing. Now we will thank our speaker. And any question? Okay, thank you.